Everybody's wanting to know what's going on the trade market right now. So many names flying around. In fact, we're seeing for the first time some transparency when it comes to scratching guys for trade related reasons. We've seen that language used with two different players, with Jacob Chychrun in Arizona and then Vladislav Gavrikov in Columbus. So, Dave, what are you hearing about both of these teams? Because it seemed like there were conflicting reports flying around Twitter that Chychrun was going here, this guy was being included. No, he wasn't. So what's the latest on Jacob Chychrun?
Well, everything still points to the Los Angeles Kings, although I believe Boston is still in there. I think there are a couple other teams, some reports suggesting Columbus and a couple others trying to make something work. Because remember, it's not just cup contending or playoff contending teams that want this guy. He's got 2 more years left on his contract, so he's controllable. So you're getting an asset here that you have for 2.5 seasons, basically, and hopefully longer, because you're going to want to try to convince him to stick around. But I still believe LA is at the forefront of this. They'd like to be able to get something done. They just got to figure out the money. I know there were reports of Cal Peterson in it. I don't think that's the case. I've heard names like Sean Walker, Brendan Lemieux, not as centerpieces, but as potential adds to whatever package this may end up being. So, I mean, when we were in LA on Saturday, it was half hour before we got to the rink at about 4:30 local time. The Coyotes put out the tweet that they're scratching Chychrun, and then all hell broke loose. So as we were getting ready for the Dustin Brown ceremony, we're also checking our phones, trying to figure out, okay, well, is something happening here? It was close. It's still relatively close, I believe, but I think things are, from Arizona's standpoint, you want to try to max out your return. I believe there's a lot of frustration from a few parties as well that this hasn't happened yet. But I mean, here we are.
Yeah. On the Cal Peterson front, guys, because there's some talk about maybe bringing Demko, and they don't really believe in a goaltending, even though Phoenix Copley, all he does is win. He's 17-3-1. He's 8-1-1 in the last 10 starts. I don't know what more he could do for this team. But on the Peterson front, like, they still believe in Cal Peterson. And he is signed for 2 more seasons at $5 million a year. They believe in him. So any swap that you hear with Cal Peterson in is probably just some really misguided trade chatter. They still believe in him. They're working with him in the minor leagues. He's done okay down there, but as you guys know, attending goal in the AHL is very different than the NHL. So Cal's down there working on his game, working on the technical stuff. So when you hear the trade rumors about goaltending, you might want to minimize that. With respect to Chychrun, here's the thing. You can't sit this guy out forever. What are you going to do, sit him out until March 3rd? Like, do the guy justice. And plus, it's a competitive issue here. Like, if you're playing Arizona without Chychrun and you're a playoff team, like, is it fair here? I don't really know. So you can't sit this guy out forever. I'll tell you this. Brant Clark isn't on the table. Quentin Byfield's not on the table. And rightfully so, because Jacob Chychrun's not a Norris Trophy winner. Right, guys? He's not a 1. He's a really good 2 with maybe even 3 on a championship team, depending on your depth chart on your defense. So to ask for 2 first-round picks and your top prospect, it doesn't make sense. So I get the pushback, and I get why it hasn't happened yet, because I'm sure Armstrong asked for those players, and they said no. There is a yawning need at lefty on the left side, the second pair, and Sean Durzee's done a fine job sitting in. And Dave mentioned Sean Walker. Sean Walker was the solution in the offseason for the left side D on the second pair. Didn't work out early. They moved Dursey over there. He's been fine. He produces offense, but he's not the long-term answer, Zach. So I think that, they want him, but they don't want to overpay. But you're right. You have 3 swings at a playoff with this play. Any team has 3 swings right now if you trade in the moment. And the thing about LA, you look, and I'm sure we'll talk about this, you look at the Pacific and the West, it's wide open. So whoever takes that swing, if it's another Western team, and you add that player to the lineup, you might be able to get through the season to the Cup final.
It's kind of like a win-win move, because if you make the move, somebody else doesn't that you're head-to-head with, and then that kind of gives you the upper hand. So, Dennis, we were talking before, actually a couple days ago, producer Jason was talking about Sean Dursey on the left side, who you just mentioned. That need for LA, I mean, that could be a hell of a fit, because I'm not going to say Sean Dursey cost Copley his shutout last game, but, he's tend to be beat quite a few times on the defensive side. So, to have him on, number one, his natural side, but then number 2, in probably a third pair role in 5-on-5 action could be beneficial in a bunch of different ways for the Kings.
Yeah, I definitely think so. And I know Sean has spent time with him this season. Really good kid. He's really defied the odds. He came out of nowhere last season when Drew Doughty went down for injury. He helped save that season last season. It's a challenge for him on the left side. He's trying very hard. It's on the job training. Basically, he's learning position because he's a right D. So yeah, but they need his offense. He's a puck moving defenseman, which they don't really have a lot of. Drew isn't the same Drew Doughty that won Norris trophies. Mikey Anderson's a stay at home guy. So is Matt Roy. They need him in the mix. Right? Absolutely. But I agree with you. Right side is much better suited for Sean Durzi. But for right now, he's holding his own. He's not the greatest defender in the world, but they are in a playoff spot, and he's been part of the solution in Los Angeles. But yeah, they need to solve that. Here's the thing. They can solve the goaltending in the offseason because right now they have an over $10 million cap hit in net, and you're not going to bring in another goalie. 3 are already healthy. They can fix the lefty right now. If it's him, if it's Chychrun, Gavrikov, Provorov, who's probably not getting traded. So that's the difference in LA. Like one issue can be solved right now in the moment. The other one probably you're looking off in the distance, probably in the offseason.
Dave, we were talking a couple of weeks ago about Gavrikov and how there's always a market for these kinds of players. Yeah. Left-handed D, plays big minutes, big body, solid defender. What's the latest on him, and what might it cost to get Vladislav Gavrikov?
Well, the asking price has been a first-round pick plus for him, and I know there are reports of extra picks on top of it. I don't know if it's going that hard. I don't think anybody's got an appetite to really pay that, but you're looking at a first-round pick and another asset, effectively, for Vladislav Gavrikov. And he has the potential to sign an extension with teams. I know he's spoken, or his agent has permission to speak with other teams. He's spoken with other teams. He's spoken with LA. He's spoken with Edmonton. He's spoken with Boston. He's chatted with some other teams, Toronto and so on, about what a contract extension would look like. So teams that want him not only know what the price is to get him from a transactional perspective, but they also know what the opportunity cost is to keep him around beyond this season. So if you're trading for this guy, it doesn't necessarily mean he's going to come with an extension, but at least you have an idea as to what he's looking for and whether that's realistic for you to keep beyond this year. So I think from a lot of the team's perspective, as they're weighing out their options to see, do I want to give up a first-round pick plus for this guy? Can he stick around? Is he going to be able to gel with my group and kind of be put in seamlessly so that you don't have any disruption in the chemistry that you've got already? So all of these elements are being considered. He's going to get traded. I mean, he's scratched and he's not going to be playing again until he is moved. So, I mean, we just got to keep a watchful eye to see who steps up in here. There's other teams that are poking around, Calgary and a few others, but it's really going to come down to what's the cost? Are you willing to pay it? And do you feel you have an opportunity to keep this guy signed beyond this season? All of those elements are in play here.
DB, is that a good contingency in your mind for the Kings if they can't land Chychrun?
Yeah, it is. But I would not trade a first-round pick for a rental, and I'm not sure they would extend him. So that's the thing. So if I'm Rob Blake, I'm saying, okay, you're not getting my first-round pick this year, even though it's not going to be in the Connor Bedard race because they're going to be in the postseason. I would offer him a second and probably B-level prospect. And look, if Yarmo can get a first-round pick for that guy, God bless him. He won. That's a win for him. It's like what I think we did with David Savard. Didn't he get a first-round pick for David Savard? So it's can he create a seller's market for this player? Because is this player really worth a first-round pick? I don't think so. But in the context, if you think he's going to put you over and be the last Pete in the puck, that's the thing with LA. Even if they got Gavrikov, are they a 4-round team? Not this year. So Rob, that's the issue. Even with Chychrun, like, are they there yet? Is it the last piece of the puzzle? Any player put them over? I don't think so because it needs a little bit more development. So Gavrikov would be a short-term solution, I think, as a rental, but it can't be for a first-round pick plus for Los Angeles. They just Rob's too conservative. He wouldn't do that, I don't think. And they learned a lesson a while ago. I think back in 2015, Dave, when they traded for Sakara and they gave him a first-round pick, and that really didn't work well. So I would be very hesitant, even with a guy who does fit what the need is in Los Angeles, to move around a first-round pick for that guy.
The other, I will add, if you're a team and you believe you're at least a 3-round team, then are you comfortable giving up a 25-plus pick for this player? I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Because keep in mind, Joel Edmondson's also out there. He's got 1 year left on his contract. The asking price for him, first-round pick plus. So the market for defensemen is a lot different than the market for forwards because there aren't as many defensemen as there are forwards out there in terms of those caliber of players. I mean, you've got Erik Karlsson, you've got Jacob Chychrun. Take those off the table. What else you got? You got Gavrikov, you have Edmonton, you have Luke Schenn. I mean, Klingberg,
Yeah.
different type of defenseman. He's offensive. And the price, you're not getting a first-round pick if you're Anaheim for John Klingberg based on how he's played. And you got to eat probably half of that contract. So the opportunity cost is there, which is why I understand why teams are holding firm on defensemen right now. But you got to take that into account. If you're Boston and you're like, listen, I got to go get Vladi Gavrikov, he's going to put me over the top. Am I going to give up a first-round pick? Sure. I mean, I think that works. I mean, some teams don't have first-round picks this year, so that's going to obviously play a factor too.
Mm-hmm.
And are you more comfortable giving up a first-round pick next year than this year? That's also part of the equation, which we've seen in other instances with, Ben Sherratt getting traded.
Mm-hmm.
Got a first-round pick, but some teams like to move the pick for a following year versus this particular summer. And with how deep this draft is allegedly, some teams might be pushing for that 2024. They may not get it. They may not get their wish to give up that pick, but it sounds like a lot of teams are trying to push to next year.
See, with Boston, like I get them going for Chychrun. I get it. Like Chychrun and Charlie McAvoy up top. Look, they fell under 800 point percentage. So I guess there's panic in Boston because they've lost a couple games or whatever. But Gavrikov instead of Grizzly doesn't make it doesn't put them over. Like Chychrun for Grizzly puts them over. Like that pair on top of what they've done this season. That's why you go for it. Yes.
I disagree. I think Vladi Gavrikov is the shutdown type of defenseman that a cup contender absolutely needs. Chychrun,
they're first in goals against. They don't need them. They're first in goals against.
Then they don't need Chychrun either.
But Chychrun gives them more offense. That's the thing.
How much more? I mean, yeah, but how much more do you need in that? If I'm them, I'd rather go and give a second-round pick for John Klingberg if you want offense. If you're trying to add offense, I'd rather give a second-round pick for Klingberg than I would overpay for Jacob Chychrun. Personally, if offense is what you need. I think Gavrikov, there's a reason why teams like Boston and Edmonton, they need defense. They need real defense. I understand the players want a guy that can help get the puck out of the zone. That's helpful too, guys. But you need somebody to help out your goaltenders. So I think Gavrikov is what they need. But Kenny Holland's got to kind of figure that out. I think you add a guy like that on your back end if you're Boston, you're that much tougher to play against.
But that's the thing. Gavrikov makes sense and way more sense in Edmonton than he does in Boston.
I agree with that.
Thank you for listening to that snippet of the Edgework podcast. You can find the full show here on YouTube and streaming on all your favorite podcast platforms. If you enjoyed it, make sure to drop a like and subscribe for more daily NHL content.